Hi, very good morning. I'm Dr. Janak Patel, MD, General Physician. All my video lectures are mainly for educative purpose. All this ECG series will be very helpful to fourth year student. We call exam going students in your theory as well as your practical exams. And also it will be very useful when you come to internship and when you start your practice or you are doing service in ICCU, ICU, acute care unit, etc. This particular lecture I am repeating after again 1 year, nearly more than 1 year. We call STEMI equivalents, or it is also called query ECG for STEMI. So this ECG are query, they are STEMI, but it becomes query because it does not fulfill the criteria of classical STEMI. So we'll be discussing in detail. Always, as we say, more you look at more and more number of ECG, you will come to know more and more, and you listen to someone, you will understand much better. So if you understand much better, you will be able to identify them on ECG. So today we are going to discuss regarding STEMI equivalent. That is, there is ST elevation but does not fulfill the criteria of classical STEMI. So those topics we are going to discuss today. Now, as you can see here, in this particular ECG, you have got ST elevation in lead 1, AVL, also in V1, V2, V3, V4, V5, plus there is a reciprocal changes in lead 2, lead 3 and AVF. So this is classical, what we call as anterior wall MI, right from V1 to V5. So this will fit very nicely with that. It's quite easy. But when you come across some odd finding which are not fitting with your classical pattern, say like here, inferior wall ischemia, inferior wall infarct, L2, L3 AVF, there is an ST elevation, lead 1 AVL, there is ST depression, there is ST elevation in what we call as V5 and V6, so that suggests lateral wall. There is an ST depression in V1, V2, there is an ST depression, and right from V3 to V6 there is an ST elevation. So you have to put all things together. So there is inferior wall, there are reciprocal changes of inferior wall, and there is ST depression with T wave inversion in AVR. Even in V1 you see there is an R wave with ST depression and T wave inversion, plus there is an ST depression in V2. This will go more in favor of, if you get an ST depression with an R wave and there is an upright T wave, this will go in favor of a posterior wall MI. So you will have to take V7, V8, V9 to confirm that there is a posterior wall MI. There is an ST elevation in V3, V4, V5, V6, which goes in favor of lateral wall infarct. So inferior, lateral plus posterior. There is also R wave and there is an ST depression with T wave inversion in AVR. These are all puzzles. So we are going through that, what we call the STEMI equivalence. Now, a standard thing, whenever you get ischemia, there is an ST depression. T wave may be inverted or may be normal. But during ischemia, you will not get any Q wave. Now, if there is an injury to a myocardium, you will have an ST elevation. Initially, you might have a tall T wave. We call a tall peak asymmetrical tented broad base T wave, followed by ST elevation. And this ST elevation will be more than 2 millimeter in two consecutive leads in chest leads and 1 millimeter in limb leads. By and large, as it advances to an infarct, you will have Q wave appearance. You can also have an ST elevation if there is variant angina or vasospastic angina or a Prinzmetal angina. Once there is a necrosis or we call infarct, now you will have a ST segment which will be coming down. You will have appearance of Q wave. T wave will be inverted. So you will have ST elevation. In case of a non-STEMI, you will have a ST depression. And T wave may be inverted, may be normal or may be upright depending upon what stage it is. But Q wave will be definitely there in a case of a STEMI, and Q wave will not be seen in a case of a non-STEMI. Now, this photograph shows that whenever you are driving, don't be very quick. Same thing applies to an ECG interpretation. Don't be in a hurry to interpret that ECG very rapidly, because if your interpretation or your judgment is not clear, you may end up with this problem. So you should be quick, but you should not be in a hurry, so that you don't end up with problem. Because if there is an STEMI and you misdiagnose as STEMI equivalent or you misdiagnose as normal, you will end up with problem. And just opposite of that, there are STEMI equivalent, you don't suspect, you miss them, you again end up with such problems, because they will end up with an acute MI, and he will have, in that particular stage you will have high mortality. Chest pain, just little introductory part of ischemic heart disease so that we understand STEMI equivalent. Chest pain can be ischemic, can be non-ischemic, or we call non-cardiac. Good number of time it is asymptomatic. Asymptomatic person can be normal, or asymptomatic person can have a silent MI, and chronic ischemic person can be also asymptomatic. But if a person is having ischemic heart disease, invariably he will present as a stable angina or acute coronary syndrome. And acute coronary syndrome can present as unstable angina, non-STEMI, STEMI, and may present as a sudden cardiac death. Now, to differentiate in an acute coronary syndrome, we are always interested in this because this is having a high mortality if not detected and if not treated. So you have to differentiate unstable angina, non-STEMI and STEMI, and for that you require good history, physical examination followed by an ECG. In unstable angina, you will have an ST depression with or without T wave inversion. In non-STEMI also you will have an ST depression with or without T wave inversion. And in STEMI you will have a ST elevation, initially tall T wave followed by an ST elevation with or without T wave changes. And sudden cardiac death, as such, it will be difficult. But with ECG, if you go for troponin or CPK-MB, they will be negative in unstable angina, they will be positive in non-STEMI, and they will be also positive in STEMI. By and large, LDH1 and SGOT is routinely not done. In case of a stable angina, to confirm, you might require a TMT, which on exercise will show you appearance of ST segment changes, particularly in AVR and chest leads. It is quite significant. So that will be helpful in case of stable angina. Particularly in a suspected case of an ACS or confirmed case of ACS, You will have to go for pure angiography or CT angio or MRI angio. And in case of a chronic ischemic heart disease, you can go for a cardiac scan or PET scan to confirm the viable area, non-viable area, and ischemic area. As far as ECG is concerned, we have already mentioned in an initial stage of acute coronary syndrome, it may be normal. In case of STEMI, initially it will be a tall T wave followed by a ST elevation with or without T wave changes like inversion. And in a non-STEMI, there will be ST depression with or without T wave inversion. So chest pain may be there and it may be associated with absolutely ECG normal, which can be still in the initial stage of STEMI, non-STEMI or unstable angina, that is we call as a acute coronary syndrome, and it can end up with what we call as a can be acute MI, that is STEMI or non-STEMI. That's why we say that all ST elevation are not STEMI. They can be STEMI equivalent or STEMI mimics. But STEMI equivalent can end up with STEMI. But STEMI mimics will not end up with STEMI. That's why they are called mimics, and equivalents which ends up with STEMI, they are called STEMI equivalents. So ischemic heart disease, you require history, EKG, CPK-MB, troponin to confirm it is STEMI, non-STEMI or unstable angina. Echo will also help you by finding out regional valve motion abnormality. ECG we have already mentioned. You will have to look at J point, whether there is an ST elevation or ST depression. And then if there is an ST elevation, look at the morphology of ST elevation, whether it is concave or convex. By and large, convex and flat are in favor of ischemic heart disease, while concave are in favor of a STEMI mimics. Second thing, in a ST depression, look at whether it is horizontal or downsloping. Horizontal or downsloping, particularly horizontal, is more in favor of ischemic heart disease, and it can be in a non-STEMI and unstable angina. Downsloping will suggest ischemic heart disease, but upsloping is very frequently with rate related ST changes. Downsloping will be also seen in case of what we call as RVH, LVH, left bundle branch block, right bundle branch block, we call secondary changes. Then you look at the T wave, look at the shape of the T wave, whether it is broad base, symmetrical, hyperacute, tall, biphasic, inverted, and other types of T wave changes like T wave alternance, pseudo normalization, as well as other type of changes in a T wave. And ideally we should also look at the Q wave, which I've forgotten to mention here. So whether it is pathological or not, and in which leads it is. So that will help you to confirm and localize the anatomical area what is being involved. So for a STEMI, these are absolutely necessary that you look at the ST elevation or depression, and if there is an ST elevation, what type of ST elevation, morphology of ST elevation, the severity of ST elevation, etc. And if there is an ST depression, morphology, whether it is horizontal, downsloping or upsloping. In T wave, shape, what type of shape it is, broad base, symmetrical, hyperacute, tall, biphasic, inverted, T wave alternance, etc. And just try to identify how many leads are being involved to localize the anatomical area. This is a chart which shows you the ST segment elevation and localization. If there is an ST elevation in V1, V2, it is anteroseptal or we call septal, and there will be reciprocal changes in V7 and V8. Artery involved will be LAD. If it is in V3, V4, we call anterior wall. Reciprocal changes you will get in V8 and V9, and LAD will be involved. Lateral is V5, V6, but there are no reciprocal changes in any specific leads. And artery involved may be LAD or left circumflex, depending upon the arterial supply. Now, permutation combination, if it is V1 to V4, we call anteroseptal, and right from V1 to V6, we call extensive anterior. If there is changes of ST elevation only in lead 1 AVL and reciprocal changes in inferior lead, it is high lateral, and that will be LAD or LCX artery. If it is in the inferior wall ST elevation and reciprocal changes in AVL, it will be RCA or left circumflex. These are standard, what we call almost very easy to identify. But now, if you get ST elevation in 3 more than 2, always keep it in mind, is it right ventricle MI? Then in that case, you will have to look at ST elevation in lead 3 is more than lead 2. There will be also ST elevation in V1, and you will have a ST elevation if you take lead, that is V4R, V5R and V6R. And you will have a ST depression, that is reciprocal change in V2. If you get classical these findings, it is RVMI, and that will be there with proximal right coronary artery involvement. And in case of a posterior wall MI, you will get an ST elevation in V7, V8, V9. Routinely we don't have this. So we look at the ST depression, which are reciprocal changes in V1, V2, V3, where you get a ST depression, R wave taller than S wave and upright T wave. Tall upright T wave. That suggests posterior wall MI, and these are reciprocal changes. Hence, this is put quite frequently in a ST segment elevation MI. And here the artery involved is posterior descending artery, which may be of RCA or maybe of left circumflex. And if you get an ST elevation in AVR, always look for what we call as a left main coronary artery involvement, sometime in case of a LAD involvement. But you get elevation in AVR, and along with elevation in AVR, if you get an ST depression in multiple leads, it is left main coronary artery involvement. So ST depression will be there in a multiple leads with AVR and V1 ST elevation. You do keep it in mind, this is likely to be left main coronary artery involvement. So this is also put into what we call, these three are put into STEMI equivalence. We'll be doing in detail as we go further. So ST elevation, these are all what we have already discussed. So ST segment changes will be abnormal. We have to look in which lead, whether it is elevated or depression. ST segment is usually depressed in stable angina, unstable, non-STEMI. And you will have a reciprocal changes in case of a STEMI. Very useful finding. If you get an ST depression with LVH criteria or RVH criteria or bundle branch criteria, it is secondary changes. But if there is an ST depression in a reciprocal leads, it is reciprocal ST depression. And if it persists with troponin elevation, it is non-STEMI. ST elevation will be classical in case of a STEMI variant angina, in which symptom signs clinical examination will be very helpful. In case of STEMI, you will have a severe chest pain, classical Levine sign, profuse prostration, hypotension, tachycardia, bradycardia, fall of blood pressure, shock stage, etc. While in variant angina, those associated findings are not common. And by and large, the ST segment will come back to normal as soon as the pain subsides or vasospasm subsides spontaneously or with drugs like coronary vasodilators. And troponin will be strongly positive in case of STEMI, but in variant angina, it will be negative. So that becomes a very easy way. So variant angina is also one of the thing which you will have to keep it in mind. You might miss and you may misdiagnose as STEMI. Now ST elevation in lead 2, lead 3 AVF, always suspect inferior wall MI. Now if you come across L2, L3 AVF, ST elevation, always keep it in mind and try to rule out true posterior wall MI, RVMI, combination of inferior plus posterior and inferior plus lateral. Always look for those. In true posterior wall MI, you will have no changes in lead 2, lead 3 AVF. You will have only changes in V2, V1, V2, V3, where you will have a ST depression. R wave will be taller than S wave and T wave will be tall. These are reciprocal changes of posterior wall MI, where if you take V7, V8, V9, there will be ST elevation. This will confirm the diagnosis of posterior wall MI. And if there are no other changes in any other lead, it will be pure posterior wall MI. So some people utilize the term true posterior wall MI. But if you come across this finding, that is ST depression in lead 1, V1, V2, V3, and you have got an ST elevation in lead 2, lead 3 AVF, it confirms that there is inferior wall plus posterior wall. Then we call inferior posterior wall. And if you get L2, L3 AVF plus we come across in lead 1 AVL V5 V6, it will be inferolateral. If you get lead 3 ST elevation taller than lead 2 plus you get an ST elevation in AVR, it will be more in favor of RVMI. So do keep this thing in mind. So if you get an ST elevation in lead 2, lead 3 AVF and ST elevation in V1 or ST elevation in lead 3 taller than L2, keep it in mind, it can be RVMI. And if R wave is taller than S wave and there is an ST depression or there is an ST elevation, keep it in mind, true posterior wall MI, you will have a ST depression in true posterior wall MI. In RVMI, you will have a ST elevation and R wave taller than S wave in V1. And in Brugada, you will have a ST elevation with curved down sloping ST segment with T wave inversion. If you get an ST elevation in V1 to V6, we already mentioned. If you get in V1, V2, it is septal. If you get in V3, V4, it is anterior. If you get right from V1 to V4, anteroseptal. If you get in V5, V6, lateral. If you get right from V1 to V6, extensive anterior. Now, if you get ST elevation in V5, V6 plus lead 2, lead 3 AVF, inferolateral, we already mentioned here. And if you get the R wave plus ST segment depression in V1, V2, and there is a tall T wave, true posterior wall MI. Now, classical diagnostic criteria for STEMI is ST elevation in 2 consecutive leads, and if they are in chest leads, 2 mm elevation, it is in favor of STEMI. And in a limb leads, 2 consecutive leads or 2 contiguous leads, 1 mm elevation in favor of STEMI. And as far as the Q wave is concerned, if it is duration wise more than 1 small square and depth wise more than 1 small square, it should be considered as pathological. So as far as a pathological is concerned, any Q wave in V2, V3 more than 0.2 second, 0.02 second or QS complex in lead V2, V3 is always pathological. Or Q wave more than 0.03 second and 0.1 millivolt depth in other leads, that is lead 2, lead 1, lead 2 AVL, AVF and V4 to V6 is again considered as pathological. So do consider this. And if that is in V1, V2, there is an R wave which is 0.04 second, that is 1 small square, and R wave is bigger than S wave, and there is a concordant positive T wave in absence of conduction defects. Do consider this as a true posterior wall MI, reciprocal changes. So ST depression in V1, V2, V3 should be considered and try to rule out posterior wall MI in presence of inferior wall or even in absence of changes in lid 2, lid 3 AVF. And if there is a elevation of ST elevation of 0.2 millivolt in a male more than 40 years in lid V2 and V3, it should be considered as positive for STEMI. And less than 40 years, more than 0.25, and in female less than 0.15 in V2, V3, and 0.1 millivolt in all the rest of the lid, that is lid 1 AVL, lid 2, lid 3 AVF, and in V4, V5, V6. Even if there is an elevation of 0.1, it is positive. And this criteria will be hold true in absence of LVH and in absence of left bundle branch block. And if there is an left bundle branch block, or if there is a severe LVH, or if there is a pacemaker complex, you will have to use Sagar-Bazak criteria, which we include in STEMI mimics. Sorry, STEMI equivalents, not mimics. So STEMI mimics is any cause of STEMI, that is ST elevation MI or acute MI like pattern, that is not associated with an actual MI, or we call is not associated with ischemic heart disease. And we have already mentioned regarding a posterior wall MI. If there is an ST elevation but it is less than 2 millimeter, particularly in a chest lids, that is V2, V3, V4, always suspect early repolarization. And in that early repolarization, benign early repolarization or early repolarization syndrome, maybe type 1, type 2 or type 3. Type 1 is BER. Type 2, type 3 are vulnerable, or we call as a dangerous one. And also keep it in mind, pericarditis. So now we come to the main part, we call as a query ECG or STEMI equivalent, meaning suspicion of ongoing myocardial ischemia is an indication of a primary PCI even in the patient without diagnostic ST elevation, and that we call as a query ECG or we call STEMI equivalent. And this will take place if there is an occlusion of left circumflex, diagonal branches, OM branches, PDA branches or PL branches, or sometime even arterial graft or venous graft occlusion. These are the things which will not have classical diagnostic ST elevation. You will have ST elevation which will give you a suspicion of ongoing myocardial ischemia. You will have to interpret and send him for angio, maybe followed by primary PCI and revascularization procedure. Now, this means that ST elevation is present without, maybe without ST elevation, and may deny reperfusion therapy, resulting into a larger infarct and worst outcome, because in this particular condition you might have a ST changes in the form of elevation or depression. We call ST changes, maybe elevation or depression, no classical diagnostic criteria, and they will end up with acute MI, and which may be lethal, and you will have a worst outcome. So always pay attention to that. So it is a term that there are atypical or recently described ECG pattern which gives you a signal that there is a risk of a transmural MI, or we call STEMI. Hence they are labeled as STEMI equivalents. So you can have a ST depression, T wave changes, or ST elevation. You can have any one of this. So it is not only STEMI elevation, ST elevation. It can be ST depression with or without T wave changes. So ischemic heart disease can be non-STEMI, can be STEMI, and it can be what we call as a STEMI equivalent, or also labeled as solar STEMI or STEMI equivalent, or even we call query ECG. For this particular purpose, always whenever you are in doubt, compare with previous ECG, whatever is available, and if it is not available, also whether it is available or not available, you must perform serial ECG, because usually in case of a STEMI and STEMI equivalent, there will be what we call as a dynamic changes. In case of persistent and recurrent symptom, you must have serial ECGs. Now we are going through the list of what we call as a STEMI equivalent. Normally we use this term, how bad, H for yes, hyperacute T wave. This is out of hospital. So outdoor means out of hospital, cardiac arrest, following a cardiac arrest. Valence sign, bundle branch block, particularly left bundle branch block. Also you must consider RBBB and pace rhythm as a part of this, and in this it will be very difficult to pick up acute MI, and ST elevation in AVR is a must, and D Winter sign is another, but there are many more which are there, so I am including that. So first very dangerous one is ST elevation in AVR, Valence sign, D Winter signs, then bundle branch block, whether it is LBBB, RBBB or pace rhythm, you use Segor-Belsa criteria or modified Smith-Segor-Belsa criteria. Then you should also look for ST depression in the leads to rule out true posterior MI. Also to find out RVMI. Then look for upright T wave in V1, very important clue in case of a true posterior MI. And also you might come across in case of a RVMI. Tall T wave, or we call hyperacute T wave, which is mentioned here. Then out of hospital, cardiac arrest, and person has now got, yes, what does this mean? Restoration of spontaneous circulation. So that will be taken as one of the condition where you will have ST segment changes. You will have to pick up that. Presence of biphasic T wave is also of very great importance, because in case of Valence sign type A, it is absolutely important. Then T alternans is again a very useful finding to pick up ongoing myocardial ischemia. And T wave inversion of multiple other things with ST depression or ST elevation is also a useful finding. Isolated ST depression in only AVL will be in favor of an inferior wall STEMI. This should be also kept in mind. Now I am going through certain cases. I am keeping this for a few seconds as we don't want to make it longer. So I am going little faster. At your leisure time, first have a pause, identify yourself, and then go further. 66-year female with chest pain, pressure findings. So person says that there is a pressure on the chest, SOB, vomiting, hypertension, blood pressure is 155 by 91, pulse is 87, respiratory rate is 20, SpO2 is 98%, and severely diaphoretic. As this history is available, we'll always suspect MI. Now if you look here, there is an ST depression in lead 1, lead 2, lead 3. In AVF, you have got a ST depression also in what we call as V2, V3 with upright T wave, and also there is an ST depression in V4, V5, V6. So there are a lot of changes. But if you look in AVR, there is an ST elevation with T wave inversion, and also there is a slight R wave with ST segment elevation with T wave inversion. Now whenever you get an ST elevation in AVR and V1, and if there is an ST elevation in AVR taller than V1 with ST segment changes, that is ST depression in multiple leads. Now if you count this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9. Out of raised 10, it is in 9. This should be considered as significant. We call that as ST elevation in AVR taller than V1 and multiple leads ST depression. Almost you must always suspect left main coronary artery or proximal LAD or triple vessel disease. This is absolutely very essential. This person should undergo immediate angiography, and depending upon the amount of involvement, you can decide. Angiography was done, 90% LAD was occluded. It was 100% occlusion in circumflex, left circumflex. So, and person had gone into a short stage. So, intra-aortic counterpulsating balloon was put, and CABG was performed after 2 days after revival. Same thing can be seen here. Have a pause, have a look on your own. AVR taller than V1, and you can see this is shown already. Lead 1, lead 2, lead 3, AVL, AVF, V3, V4, V5, V6, almost again in 9 leads. Again, this will go in favor of what we call as widespread ST depression with AVR ST elevation taller than V1. Always suspect left main coronary artery or proximal LAD or triple vessel disease. Again, same thing, at your leisure time, go through, have a look properly, you will be able to identify. So I am skipping this particular few of the slides. Again, look here, try to identify such things. Black circles are ST depressions and red are what we call as ST elevation. AVR is taller than V1, suspect LMC occlusion, or also in case of a LAD or triple vessel disease. Similar thing, multiple leads, again AVR ST segment taller than V1, ST depression in multiple leads, go through. AVR is always inverted, P wave is inverted, ST segment is inverted, T wave is inverted. We always call AVR as an orphan lead or neglected lead, or we call forgotten lead. And this becomes a ST elevation criteria. So if you get an ST elevation in AVR and you got an ST depression in multiple leads, always suspect left main stem coronary artery involvement, LAD proximal involvement, or triple vessel disease. As well as if you get an ST elevation in V1 simultaneously, and if AVR is taller than V1, ST depression in multiple leads, again same criteria. So ST elevation in AVR taller than V1, again LMC occlusion with ST depression in multiple leads. So ST elevation in AVR will suggest LMC occlusion or proximal LAD or triple vessel disease. So it becomes very important. Good number of times such ECG, that is AVR ST elevation taller than V1 and multiple ST depression, is suggestive of left main equivalent, or we call left main coronary artery involvement with or maybe along with LAD occlusion or maybe triple vessel disease. So ischemia due to left main coronary artery There are certain criteria. They say that if there is an ST depression of more than 1 millimeter in 8 surface ECG lead, particularly inferolateral, that is L2, L3 AVF, lead 1 AVL, and V4, V5, V6. Those are 8 leads. It is straightforward in favor of left main equivalence. And you have got an ST elevation in AVR and V1 taller than 1, and AVR is taller than V1. Always suspect left main equivalent. Another, they put that diffuse subendocardial ischemia due to oxygen supply demand mismatch following a resuscitation from cardiac arrest can also produce similar type of changes. So always look for left main equivalent in left main coronary artery if you get those findings, or maybe multiple vessel disease, or maybe LAD plus LCX, or maybe proximal LAD with LCX occlusion, or following a resuscitation from cardiac arrest. So keep this thing in mind. You will have such finding in what we call as person who has been revived from cardiac arrest. So we put them into that group, what we call as out of hospital cardiac arrest revival. This is another case where person, female 63-year, complaining of shortness of breath, exertional pressure means exertional chest pain, hypertension, tobacco chewer. This is a blood pressure, hypertensive, uncontrolled, pulse is 90, respiration is 20, and SpO2 is 93, and person is having this ECG. Now if you look properly in V1, you have got an ST elevation with T wave inversion, but in V2 you can see that along with ST elevation the T wave is upright and there is a small negative T wave. So this is a biphasic T wave. Whenever in lead V1, V2 or V3, if you get such biphasic T wave with ST elevation, suspect valence sign, which suggests a tight LAD occlusion or again left main coronary artery occlusion. And when you get such deep symmetrical T wave inversion, it is valence sign type B. So this will be evolving infarct, or we call progressive myocardial ischemia or ongoing myocardial ischemia. So you can have type A or type B. This is type A. This is in favor of type B. Symmetrical T wave inversion. History is absolutely necessary, but the most important part, troponin will be usually negative. Now in this, angiography showed 86% of posterior artery being involved, that is LAD lesions was there. Troponin was negative and there was proximal LAD involvement, 90% was involved, and person was put, drug eluting stent was placed and person recovered nicely. So in a valence sign, it is a critical proximal LAD stenosis. Person may have chest pain. Chest pain may be continuous and ECG may be normal sometime, but good number of time you will get classical changes, what we call as troponin by and large is normal. Very rarely it will be just borderline elevated. There will be no pathological precordial Q wave and there is no loss of R wave. And if you look properly, you will have a ST elevation in V2, V3 with biphasic T wave inversion. So if you get an ST elevation in V2, V3 or even in V1, V2, V3, but by and large it is more common with V2, V3, and there is a biphasic T wave inversion, first initial positive followed by second negative, always suspect valence sign type A or we call type 1. And if there is a symmetrical isoelectric ST segment with symmetrical deep T wave inversion, it will be more in favor of type 2B, symmetrical deep T wave inversion. That will be type B. And in type 1A, you will have a biphasic T wave inversion with ST segment elevation in V2, V3. That will be characteristic of valence type 1 or A. This is seen almost in 25% of the people, and this symmetrical T wave inversion is seen almost in 75% of the group of people with proximal LAD. So do keep it in mind. So this will be almost, sorry, this is just wrongly, this is wrongly mentioned. This should be here. This type 2 should be mentioned here. This should be changed. This should be type 1, this should be type 2. This is type 2 or type B, and this is type 1, where you got a ST elevation with upright T wave and second negative part. So we call this as a biphasic. You can see a biphasic wave in V1, V2 and V3, and this will be type 2 classical, that is dip symmetrical T wave inversion. If you see that in V2, V3, that will be in favor of type 2, which is almost 75%. We have got second slide. Sorry, that is some typing mistake. So this is wrong. This is wrong. I should have removed this slide. Okay. So valence sign, if you get biphasic T wave more in favor of type 1 or type A, and you get a deep symmetrical T wave inversion type B or type 2. Again, biphasic T wave with ST segment elevation type A in V2, V3, which is approximately 25% of the cases, while in 75% of the time it will be deep symmetrical T wave inversion. This is type B, and this will be biphasic T wave inversion. This is deep symmetrical T wave inversion, will be going in favor of type B. Deep symmetrical T wave inversion, and you can see this is proximal LAD. As soon as you open up this, these changes will disappear, and if you don't do revascularization, this will end up with anteroseptal or extensive anterior wall infarct. Now this is another case, 43-year male, aching pain in chest, hyperlipidemia, hypertensive 168/70, pulse is 84, respiratory rate is 20, SpO2 is 94, and if you look here on your own, now I am giving an answer that there is an ST depression. There is an ST depression. Now if you look from ST depression, there is a tall T wave. You can see there is an ST depression and followed by a tall T wave, upright tall T wave. When you get in lid V2, V3, V4, and you don't have a changes of ST elevation in other lids, this is given a name De Winter sign. So ST depression and peak T wave in V2, V3, V4, sometime it can extend also up to V5, but at least in V2, V3 is quite common. So V2, V3, V4, if it is there, always suspect De Winter sign. Same person after 2 hours in an ICU, you can see now there is an ST elevation. Person is developed an acute infarct. There is an ST elevation in V1, V2, V3, even in V4. So this is anteroseptal infarct, classical De Winter sign. And person was taken to cath lab. There was 100% mid LAD occlusion, and person was subjected to drug eluting stent, and person was revived. So initial ECG, you can see there is a marked ST segment elevation. Subsequently further elevation. This is hyperacute T wave. Then this is further. Now this was the first ECG which was there. If you pick up this, there is an ST depression with tall T wave. Tall T wave. So whenever you come across ST depression in V2, V3 and V4, may extend up to V5, and there is a tall T wave without much amount of ST elevation in other lids, always keep it in mind, De Winter sign. very, very important. So upsloping ST depression with hyperacute T wave in chest slits with ascending limb starting below the isoelectric line. This is quite important. So T wave will start right from here. So it is with ST depression. It is an unusual presentation of LAD occlusum, and it is almost occurring in 2% of the cases, and this is given a name De Winter sign. Also called as a J-point depression with tall T wave or hyperacute T wave. Persistent tall T wave right from V2 to V5, quite common. And it is proximal LAD occlusum. Again shown very clearly. At your leisure time you can go through. Again same, you can have a look at this. This is in V2, V3 and V4. You got an ST depression and you got a tall T wave. Again you can see right from V1, V2, V3, V4, there is an ST depression with tall T wave. And after that, you can see that same person had developed an hyperacute ST segment elevation. ST segment elevation means person has developed ongoing infarct. This is a difference between Valence sign and De Winter sign. I am not going into detail. At your leisure time, you can go through with ease. Valence sign will give you an idea. There are two types of changes, while in De Winter sign there is only one change. Valence sign is more common as compared to De Winter sign. In De Winter sign you will have a ST depression, while in Valence sign you will have a ST elevation, or maybe ST segment may be isoelectric. In Valence sign you will have a biphasic T wave inversion, which will be in type A, and dip symmetrical T wave inversion in type 2 or B variety. Type B is more common as compared to A. So do look at this particular finding, while here you will have upright T wave. In short, both suggest proximal LAD occlusum. Now this is another patient where 67-year male complains of chest pain, pressure types of findings, blood pressure 134/90, respiration 20, pulse 75, SpO2 96. Now because a person is having chest pain, pressure, always keep it in mind, is it ischemic heart disease? Now in this ECG, if you look properly, have a look. I'm having a pause for 1 minute. Now this is showing you LBBB, classical LBBB. Lead 1, AVL, V5, V6, you got a broad QRS, P wave is present, ST segment downsloping with T wave inversion, and in V1, V2, you got a deep S wave, wide QRS with ST segment elevation in V1, V2. Classical left bundle branch block. Now as the person has got pressure, always look for Segor-Bessa criteria. We'll be discussing in detail separately again in a separate video lecture, that is Segor-Bessa criteria. But here I would like to mention only 3 classical findings, that is concomitant ST segment elevation in V5, V6. If there is a concomitant ST elevation in V5, V6 more than 1 millimeter with QRS complex upright, that will be having 5 points, and that is called as A criteria. While concomitant ST depression in V1, V2, V3 more than 1 millimeter, that will be given 3 points, that is called B criteria. And discordant, that is ST segment is in opposite direction of a QRS complex, and that will be seen in a V1, V2, V3. So you have got a deep S wave followed by an ST elevation, and if that ST elevation is more than 5 millimeter, it will be in favor of 2 points. Now for a diagnosis we require 3 points. So C criteria was not more specific. So it was less specific and less sensitive. So there was a what we call as modified criteria, CABE. So we have mentioned standard. This is left bundle branch block. I am going little faster. So classical criteria of left bundle branch block: wide QRS, broad notch, R wave in 1, AVL and V5, V6. You will have a dominant S wave in V1, V2, and you will have a discordance in that V1, V2. You will have a ST segment in opposite direction of a QRS vector. That is in V1, V2, you will have a ST segment elevation in V1, V2 because you have got a S wave deeper. So you will have ST elevation. While in case of lead 1, AVL and V5, V6, you will have a ST segment depression with T wave inversion. So that will be discordance, ST segment changes. While you will have a wide QRS in lead 1, AVL, V5, V6, which will be RS, R dash pattern. First R will be taller than second R. This is peculiar in case of a left bundle branch block. And you will have a deep S wave. S wave will be taller than R wave in V1, V2. That is what we call as left bundle branch block. So in presence of left bundle branch block with chest pain, if patient is unstable, always rule out acute MI. If there is a concordance, ST segment elevation more than 1 millimeter, or there is a concordance, ST segment depression in V1 and V3, this will give 5 points, this will give 3 points, straightforward in favor of acute MI. Or if there is a discordant ST segment changes, which is Sagorbasa criteria by Smith, and if it is more than 25%, then it is in favor of STEMI, but it is only 2 points. We call that as an excess of discordance. Now along with that, LBBB, if there is a high clinical suspicion, there is a troponin positive, there is an abnormal echo, these are additional points which will suggest that there is an acute MI in presence of left bundle branch block. So unstable, concordance, STT changes, elevation and depression, we call Sagorbasa A and B criteria, or modified Smith criteria, which will be suggesting as far as C criteria is concerned, and there is a high clinical history suggestive of positive biomarkers and abnormal echo, will be straightforward in favor of an presence of acute MI in presence of left bundle branch block. As far as A and B criteria is concerned, it is in any leads. But discordant criteria is usually characteristic in case of V1, V2. So you look in that particular. So whenever you get a concordance STT changes, whether elevation or depression, those are the bad signs in presence of LBBB. So always look for concordance changes, ST elevation in V5, V6 and ST depression in V1, V2, V3. So those criteria are shown here. You can see this is normal, but when you get this particular in V5, V6, you get an ST elevation, it is dangerous one. Or you get a concordance ST depression more, it is dangerous one. These are concordant and this is discordant ST elevation. And if you measure that in a Smith criteria, that will be significant. And we have already mentioned, if there is a troponin positive, hemodynamically unstable, echo is in favor of regional wall motion abnormality, reduced ejection fraction, you have taken a serial ECG and that is showing you further changes, or we call dynamic changes, it will be strongly in favor of acute MI. We also use Cabrera criteria and Chapman's criteria, as we come across, will show you almost indirectly entire Segor-Bessa criteria is getting over. So STEMI in presence of an left bundle branch block, Segor-Bessa criteria is absolutely necessary, and as far as C criteria in Segor-Bessa is modified by Smith, and that we call as a Smith modification to Segor-Bessa criteria, and that tells you that if there is ST segment elevation more than 5 millimeter in V1 V2, which is a discordant elevation, but if you measure the proportion of S wave to ST elevation, and if it is more than 25%, then it is included in modified criteria, because this original criteria gives you only 2 points, so sensitivity was reduced, hence there was a modified criteria. So if you get an inappropriate discordant, this is 5 points, this is 3 points, and this was only 2 points. So modified criteria came in. So more specific is if you get more than 3 score, then it is specific. So the ratio of ST segment elevation to J point to the R or S wave is more than 0.25, then it was given 2 points and it was significant. So say here this is 5 millimeter elevation, and say this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So almost it is more than 0.25, so it is in favor. Say here this is 10, this is 3, so this is 0.3%, so this is again in favor. So this is called Segor-Bessa Smith criteria or Smith Segor-Bessa criteria. So always compare R wave or S wave with ST segment changes. So if the R wave or ST segment changes, so ST segment elevation measured from at J point, if that is more than 0.25%, that is this is depression more than 3 millimeter, this is more than 2 millimeter, discordant, and if it is more than 0.25%, it is significant. Cabrera criteria is if in an ECG on upsloping of S wave, if you get a notch, that is Cabrera signs. If it is seen, it is in favor. Chapman sign is in a QRS complex, upright QRS complex. If you get a notch, that is Chapman sign. You can see in lead 1, AVL and V5, V6. So this is Chapman sign in favor. So same criteria you can apply in a pace rhythm. So you will see a spike, you will have a left bundle branch block pattern. Now you can see this is Cabrera signs. So this is in favor of presence of an acute MI in pace rhythm. So you can apply all those things. Either you can apply Segor-Bessa criteria, Cabrera sign or Chapman sign. And clinical presentation will be very useful. And if you still suspect in a pace rhythm, turn off the pacemaker temporarily and using a programmer to check the intrinsic ECG lead, and in an ECG lead now you can go for Segor-Bessa criteria, what we call as a Chapman sign or Cabrera sign. So this is clearly you can see that there is a marked ST segment elevation in lead 2, lead 3 AVF. There is an ST depression in V1, V2, V3, even in V4. This is straightforward telling you that the person is having acute MI. So inferior posterior wall STEMI on the top of pace ventricular rhythm. This is a very good ECG showing you that there is a spike, so there is a pace rhythm, and you can see in an inferior lead clearly, and you have got an ST segment. These are reciprocal changes of a posterior wall. So inferior posterior wall STEMI. Right from V1 till V6, you are having an ST depression. And you can even say that at this particular, there is a Cabrera sign. So you can utilize that. Again, you can see here, there is an ST depression in lid 2, lid 3 AVF, and there is an ST elevation in lid 1 AVL, and there is a spike. You can see clearly spike, and there is a marked ST elevation in V1, V2, V3, V4, even V5, and even also in V6 also there is a slight ST elevation. So this is extensive anterior wall infarct. So ST elevation in V1 to V5, and in presence of pace rhythm, and also there is an ST elevation in lid 1 and AVL, and there are reciprocal changes in what we call as the lid 2, lid 3 AVF in presence of pace rhythm. Do suspect acute MI. Also, if there is an RBBB and if there is an ST elevation or ST depression which is indicative of STEMI, do keep it in mind. It can be non-STEMI or it can be a signs of reciprocal changes of STEMI, and person should be subjected to angiography followed by a revascularization. So it is more common with left bundle branch block, but also don't forget it can be seen also in presence of right bundle branch block. So you do keep it in mind. Right bundle branch block is not always benign. Here you can see that in presence of right bundle branch block, there is an anterior septal infarct. So you got an ST elevation in V2, V3, even slight ST elevation in V1, V2, V3. So this is anterior septal. Anterior septal, yes. And you have got a reciprocal changes in lid 2, lid 3 and AVF. And there is RBBB. Here you can see again V1, V2, V3, V4, almost V5. Extensive anterior wall. Extensive anterior wall. Now we go to another group we call it a true posterior wall MI. A person when he comes to you with a chest pain and you get only reciprocal changes seen in V1, V2, V3. So you got an ST depression with R wave, and R wave may be more than S wave, and you have got a tall T wave. So if you get those criteria, that is tall R wave is bigger than S wave in V1, V2, V3. You have got a ST depression in V1, V2, V3, and you have got an upright tall T wave in V1, V2, V3. You should suspect true posterior wall MI. And along with this, if you get any changes in a L2, L3 AVF, inferior plus posterior. Now if you take an opposite lid, that is V7, V8, V9, and if it shows an ST elevation, it is classical true posterior wall MI. So if there is an L2, L3 AVF is showing you an ST elevation, always keep it in mind, is it associated with posterior wall MI? And look for the signs, reciprocal signs in V2, V1, V2 and V3. Always, posterior wall MI is quite common with inferior wall. But occasionally you can have only posterior wall where you will not have these changes. You will not have changes in ST, changes in lid 2, lid 3 and AVF. So do keep this thing in mind. So if you get an ST segment elevation equivalence as far as posterior MI is concerned, horizontal ST depression in V1 to V4 more than 1 small square 0.5 millimeter, but we say that more than 1 small square, tall R wave where R wave is taller than S wave and R wave duration is more than 30 millisecond, and there is an upright tall T wave. Mainly you see in a V1, V2, V3, always suspect posterior wall MI. To confirm V7, V8, V9, which will show ST elevation more than 1 small square, it is straightforward in favor of posterior wall MI. This is ST depression in V1, V2, V3, and there is an ST elevation in V7, V8, V9. So that is straightforward. So in a true posterior wall MI, you will get a ST depression, R wave taller, upright T wave in V1, V2, V3, straightforward in favor of true posterior wall MI. This is again you can see ST depression in V2, V3 classical. There is no ST elevation in lead 2, lead 3 and AVF. Suspect true posterior wall MI. Isolated. And in that case, if you take an ECG at V7, V8, V9, you will have a ST elevation. So V7, V8, V9, take posteriorly. V7 posterior axillary line. V8 below the scapula, that is below the scapular angle, and V9 paravertebral region at the same level. So V7, V8, V9, if you take and if you get an ST elevation in that, it is in favor of true posterior wall MI. Again you can see ST depression in V1, V2, V3 and ST elevation in V7, V8, V9, straightforward in favor. But if you get along with inferior wall, see here in inferior wall we have got ST elevation in 2, 3 and AVF, and you have got ST depression here. Keep it in mind, this will be reciprocal changes of posterior wall. Plus, if you see properly, in V5, V6, there is an ST elevation. So this will suggest lateral wall. So inferior plus lateral plus posterior. So inferior, posterior and lateral. So inferior, posterior plus I'll put lateral also. And in that particular, if you see properly, lead 3 ST segment elevation will be always more than lead 2. So if you come across, always keep it in mind, lateral wall, posterior wall, and even in case of RVMI. So inferior, posterior, lateral, lead 2, lead 3 AVF plus ST segment changes, ST depression in V1, V2, V3, but ST elevation in V5, V6, inferior lateral and V1, V2 ST segment posterior. So inferior, posterior, lateral stem. This is posterior lateral. So you got lead 1 AVL and you got an ST depression in V3, V4. So this is lateral wall and this is posterior. So this will be posterior lateral. Again here 2, 3 AVF, so inferior, ST elevation in V4, V5, V6, inferior plus lateral. In case of RVMI, now very important, you will have a ST elevation in lead 2, lead 3 AVF. So you think in term, is it RVMI or is it inferior plus posterior or is it inferior plus lateral? So whenever you get L2, L3 AVF, ST segment elevation, do keep it in mind and try to rule out RVMI, posterior wall MI and lateral wall MI. So in a RVMI, ideally you will have to take V4R. But if you get an ST elevation in V3R, V4R, V6R or V7, it is 100% in favor. But in routine ECG, if you get ST elevation only in V1, but there is a ST depression in V2 and V3, it is 50% in favor. And if there is an ST elevation in 3 more than 2, then also it is in favor of RVMI or suspect RVMI, and also you should try to rule out in case of a true posterior wall MI. Posterior wall MI. So inferior wall MI with ST elevation in V1, and if you get also in V2 and V1 is taller than V2, also you can keep it in mind RVMI. But best way to identify RVMI is ST elevation in V4R, which is almost always seen, which will be straightforward 100% in favor. And if along with lead 2, lead 3 AVF, lead 3 is taller than lead 2 ST elevation. So lead 3 is taller as compared to lead 2, and you have got a V1 ST segment elevation, it will be almost 50% in favor. So in RVMI, it is usually associated with inferior wall MI. So always in presence of inferior wall AMI, try to rule out RVMI, and it is because of RCA, where you will get ST elevation in right precordial lid, that is V1. ST elevation in lid 3 will be taller than lid 2, and in V1 ST elevation will be more than 2. It may be taller than V2 if there is an ST elevation in V2. So that will be in favor of RVMI. So if you look at lid V1 is taller than V2 and there is an inferior wall in infarct, suspect RVMI. So ST elevation in 3 is taller than 2. Keep it in mind, it can be RVMI. Again here, same. Lid 3 taller than lid 2. V1 is also taller than V2. Suspect RVMI with inferior wall MI. Again, V1 is ST elevated, again in favor of ST elevation more than 2 millimeter in V1 in favor of RVMI, and ST elevation more than 2 millimeter in V1 in absence of ST elevation in other precordial lid rules out anterior wall MI, because whenever you get this, you will have a ST depression in multiple lids, lid 1, AVL, it will be that. So do keep it in mind. So you should have V1 and absence of ST elevation in other precordial lid. If you don't get only in V1, but there is no ST elevation in other precordial lid, almost it rules out anterior wall MI. But when you get in presence of inferior wall MI in V1, it will be RVMI. So lid 2, lid 3 AVF, inferior wall MI, and you got an ST segment changes. This is reciprocal changes. So, but if lid 3 is taller than 2, always keep it in mind. Rule out RVMI and posterior wall. So look for those changes. Now here you can see that in suspected case of a posterior wall, V4R, there is an ST elevation, V5R, V6R. Straightforward means isoelectric ST segment in V1, ST depression in V2. If you get an ST depression, posterior wall. ST elevation in V1, RVMI. So 3 bigger than 2, and if you have got ST depression, rule out posterior wall. So inferior STEMI with RV infarct. So if you get V4R ST segment elevation, keep it in mind, it can be RVMI. So in presence of inferior wall, lid 3 taller than 2, in case of posterior wall MI, you will have a V1, V2, V3 ST segment depression with upright T wave, R wave taller than S wave. In case of an RVMI, you will have a ST segment elevation in V1 taller than ST segment elevation in V2, and V4R will show you ST segment elevation, straightforward in favor of RVMI. But if you get an ST segment which is isoelectric in V1 and there is an ST depression in V2 and there is an ST elevation in V4R, it will be inferior wall STEMI with RVMI. So this is straight inferior wall 3 more than 2, and if you get a tall R wave in V4R, ST segment elevation in V4R, you can see here V4R, V5R, V6R, and in V1, V2, V3, this is V1, V2, V3 also R, these are right side chest lids. So V1, this is standard V1, V2. So in V1, V2 you have got an ST elevation and V1 will be taller than V2. Rule out RVMI always. Here this is V1R, V2R, V3R. So right from V3R you have got an ST elevation, but in V1 and V2 indirectly this will become V1 and this will be V2 in a standard lids. So when you get such changes, always suspect ST depression Also, RVMI can produce such changes because V2 corresponds to opposite of what we call as a posterior wall MI and RVMI. So in RVMI, you will have to take V2 will become V1R and V1 will become V2R. Then V3, V4, V5, V6R. So always go for V4R is a base lead which will give you an idea. So say here only V4R is changed while rest of things are kept same. So lead 3 taller than lead 2, and in V2 there is an ST depression. This is almost isoelectric. There is a slight ST elevation. And if you see in V4R, there is an ST elevation, straightforward in favor of RVMI. So 3 taller than 2. And now you can see that in V4R, V5R, V6R, ST segment elevation. Same thing seen here. Right side chase leads, V1 to V6R. So this V1, V2 is interchange right from V3 onwards. You got an ST elevation. This is ideally V2, this is V1. But when you make it right side chase leads, you are looking at ST segment depression in V1, V2, and you got an ST elevation in V3, V4, V5, V6. That will be very peculiar in RVMI. So enough regarding RVMI. Now if you get an acute coronary syndrome, means person is having severe chest pain, and you are having T wave upright in V1. Normally T wave is inverted in V1. This is very, very important because T wave can be upright in V1 as a normal finding. Even if your lead interchange has taken place. Also in case of left bundle branch block LVH, you can have a T wave upright and in a high voltage. But we are interested in this acute coronary syndrome. So if you get a T wave upright, you should keep it in mind in presence of chest pain. In this we don't have a chest pain. In all this we don't have a chest pain. So continuous chest pain, classical history, and if T wave is upright in V1, keep it in mind it can be LAD occlusion, LMCA, or triple vessel disease or LCX. And particularly if there is a new upright T wave in V1, this is N for new, U for upright T wave in V1, very, very important, with ongoing symptoms, or you have got T wave in V1 taller than T wave in V6. So if there is new tall T wave in V1, normally we don't have a tall T wave in V1. So now V1 T wave is taller than V6. That is another very, very important criteria as far as only T wave changes in V1 is concerned. Or we say loss of precordial T wave balance. This word is being utilized. Normally T wave in V6 is always taller than V1. So if now T wave in V1 becomes taller than V6, we call that as a loss of precordial T wave balance. And this suggests LAD, LMCA, left circumflex, or even a RCA, we call triple vessel disease. And in that case, get repeat ECG is a must because you can have dynamic changes. This is a baseline ECG. You can see here this is T wave inverted, and in V6 this is upright T wave. Now if you come across, see there is an upright T wave here, and in compared to V6 this is taller, and in a subsequent lead you can see T wave is becoming much taller. This is 3 and this is 4. You can see now there is an biphasic T wave. Here also there is a biphasic T wave. Here there is a tall T wave in V2. So this is a change which is going on. Case 1, ECG 2, ECG 3, ECG 4. So person is developing continuous changes in an ECG. This is also one of the thing which tells you that this is a dynamic changes. So do pay attention. Here also you can see that there is an upright T wave in V1 and it is taller than V6, and this is, if you compare with previous and if it is new, again it is a new upright T wave in favor of ischemic heart disease, particularly LAD, LMCA or triple vessel disease. And same person after few hours, you can see here there is a huge ST segment elevation right from V2 onwards up to V6. So person has developed an acute extensive anterior wall infarct. This is another case. You can see that there is a small upright T wave in V1, taller than V6, small upright. Then this is second ECG. Next day morning, you can see there is an valence sign which has appeared. Now, if this person doesn't undergo early angiography with revascularization, he can end up with problem. You can see here there is a tall upright T wave and it is taller than V6. Do keep it in mind, this is a sign of LAD, LMCA or triple vessel disease. So now the important part, what has happened here? By mistake, lead 3, that is V3, is put at V1 and a V1 is put at V3 here. So this is V3 and this is V1. So V1 lead was kept at V3 and V3 lead was kept at V1. So this changes what has happened. So interchange lead reversal can also produce a changes which sometimes can be mistaken as a STEMI mimics. Sorry, STEMI equivalent. So you must keep it in mind, lead reversal also. V1, V3 has been interchanged and that is producing some of these problems. This is left ventricular hypertrophy which can produce T wave upright. Left bundle branch block can also have a T wave upright, and a high voltage can also produce T wave upright. This is hyperacute T wave which is very, very significant, and if it is broad, asymmetrical, tall, it is in favor of hyperacute T wave of acute MI. So T wave amplitude more than 2/3 of QRS complex and may precede ST elevation, that is classical early stage of acute MI, we call hyperacute T wave. And as the T wave changes seen in a consecutive leads, do keep it in mind. So it is more than 2/3 of QRS complex, and if the T wave, that particular T wave, normal person is having less than 5 millimeter in limb leads and less than 10 millimeter in precordial leads, but if it is more than 10 millimeter in precordial and more than 5 millimeter in limb leads, it should be significant. So you have to differentiate from hyperkalemia and hyperacute T wave. In hyperkalemia, narrow base, pinched or peaked T wave with broad QRS, symmetrical, PR interval will be prolonged, then later on it will be, P will be absent, and you will have an appearance of a sine wave as hyperkalemia increases. While in case of a myocardial ischemia, broad base, tall, tented, asymmetrical, taller than QRS complex, etc. That will be in favor of a myocardial ischemia. So hyperacute T wave, always keep it in mind two things, hyperkalemia and hyperacute T wave of acute MI. And whenever there is a narrow QRS complex with broad base, keep it in mind hyperacute T wave of acute MI. Again, you can see broad base, asymmetrical, tall T wave in V2, V3, V4, almost in V5. So this is strongly in favor of what we call as a hyperacute T wave of anterior wall MI. Again, you can see that there is a hyperacute T wave in V2, V3, V4, V5, and along with that there is an ST segment elevation, straightforward in favor of an hyperacute T wave of acute MI. Now there is another condition we call out of hospital cardiac arrest, which has been revived, and now there is a restoration of spontaneous circulation, and he should be subjected to cath lab to find out the severity of damage, because he is likely to have severe coronary artery disease. Always go for that. So don't wait. Now, biphasic T wave particularly is of importance because it suggests myocardial ischemia. You can see also in hypokalemia, digoxin toxicity, but don't forget valence sign, and particularly valence sign A, where you will have an initial upright followed by negative, but initial negative followed by positive is quite common in hypokalemia, and where we also use the term reverse valence sign. So keep that thing in mind. So valence sign is of importance, and also if there is a pseudo normalization of a T wave which was inverted or it was tall and now it becomes normal. By and large, it will be more common with inverted T wave. So inverted T wave becomes upright with ongoing chest pain. Do keep it in mind, it can be ongoing myocardial ischemia. We call pseudo normalization. Also, if there is a T wave which is showing you alternate pattern, this is upright, this is biphasic, almost biphasic, or you can call inverted, and this is called T wave alternance. If there is a presence of T wave alternance, it suggests that person is having dynamic changes, and that is in favor of an ongoing myocardial ischemia, and person is at a high risk of sudden cardiac death. He should be subjected to angiography followed by revascularization. Also, amplitude is of importance. Higher the amplitude, higher the chance of ischemic heart disease. If there is a ST segment elevation or depression, with or without T wave inversion, it is always in favor of ischemia. So if there is an ST elevation or ST depression with symmetrical T wave inversion is in favor. Biphasic T wave, upright T wave followed by a negative is in favor of ischemia. But if there is an asymmetrical T wave inversion, it is more in favor of strain pattern. So symmetrical T wave inversion are almost a sign of myocardial ischemia. Deep symmetrical T wave inversion again in favor of myocardial ischemia. So if T wave inversion is more than 5 mm, it should be significant. If there is an isolated ST depression only in AVL, do keep it in mind, inferior wall stem. Have a repeat ECG, have a echocardiography, have a subsequent ECG, compare with the previous ECG. Serial ECG should be taken. It is highly sensitive. This is considered as a reciprocal change of inferior wall stem. Isolated ST depression only in AVL, not in lead 1. If it is in lead 1 and AVL, it suggests high, means ST depression. It will be in favor of a reciprocal change of inferior wall stemming. But only in AVL also, even if you get, it should be suspected. So these are all the important clues which you can see in ECG in absence of standard criteria. So I feel that this lecture will be very helpful to you. This is a repeat lecture. I have given one lecture before 1 year. Some of the slides, some of the important clue I have added in this. I thank you all for taking out time. I know that your time is valuable. I appreciate for spending some of the time with me. If you like this lecture, please press button like. You can subscribe And if you feel that this is helpful to your friends, your colleagues, etc., you can share with anyone. Thank you again. See you in next lecture.